One of the cases in public relations that really illustrate some of the key principles are ones that the field gets criticized for. Edward Bernays is a great example. I've got the classic case in there on the Torches of Freedom, where he basically used techniques of social psychology, of persuasion, and developed new techniques to persuade women to smoke. And on face value, obviously that's wrong. Why would we want anyone to smoke, let alone women in the 1920s? However, if you go down a layer, it's really interesting because it opens up, well, first of all, what are the practices that are at work there? And even if you think about the most evil propaganda in the world, we need to be able to understand those processes so that we can identify them. That's an important societal function. That's important in critical thinking. But the other important part is let's hash out the ethical part. Does that mean that organizations should never try to persuade somebody to buy a product? And again, I think we can say yes, it's bad to promote cigarettes, but I think we need to say, well, wait a minute, why? What was Bernays actually doing wrong? If that had been a socially responsible product or something that really helped society, and he did do a lot of that too, how can we separate out, what makes one case unethical from what makes another case ethical?
Thanks, Paul. My next guest is a truly fascinating gentleman. He happens to be 93 years old, and he is the father of public relations. In the course of his 70-year career, some of his clients have been Presidents Wilson, Hoover, Coolidge, and Eisenhower, Thomas Edison, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Enrico Caruso. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Edward Bernays. Hi, Doctor. Good to see you. Come on up over here. There you go. Have a seat right here. Thank you very much for being here. I mentioned to the people how old you were. I hope you don't mind me telling them that. And what kind of a doctor are you? What?
Since the invention of the printing press, there's been a battle to control disseminated information. In the early 1900s, oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller took control of every newspaper and news editor of his era. He became America's first billionaire, paving the way for the power-hungry ever since. Thus began the gold rush for the modern world's most precious resource, the narrative.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
During a Senate committee investigation, it was revealed that the CIA had been conducting a covert operation to infiltrate and control U.S. media. They called it Operation Mockingbird.
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Over 3,000 CIA contracted and trained operatives were placed in key positions within top media outlets. Posing as editors and journalists, these well-paid actors never dared to question the effect of their lives on the world beyond their cozy studio.
All right, now, Doctor, tell me again what the doctor is. What are we dealing with here? You're the father of public relations.
What we're dealing with really is the concept that people will believe me more if you call me doctor.
Oh, I see. That's a good idea.
Right, so I want to read a quote in here that is very, very important that all of us understand, because this becomes the foundation of the mainstream media. Let me highlight that for you. This is a quote from his book called Propaganda. Pretty good title for it. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate the unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government. Strange how we're now talking about shadow government, invisible government. Well, this is 100 years ago. So constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded Our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they're to live together as a smoothly functioning society. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. This last sentence here, so powerful. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind.
And actually, I am doctor because 2 universities gave me honorary degrees.
Mm-hmm. All right.
One was Boston University, and the other was Babson College.
So you're making the most of those degrees. Well, let's talk a little bit about public relations. You've been doing it for 70 years. Who were some of
72.
72. Who were some of your early accounts? Who were clients of yours back in the very beginning?
In the very beginning, Procter & Gamble was one of our accounts.
Mm-hmm.
They had a white floating soap called Ivory soap.
Right. That was the selling point. It would actually float in the bathtub or wherever you were bathing, I guess.
That's right. And they came to me one day and said that mothers washed the faces of the children, and they hated soap because their eyes were stinging from the soap. And that when people grew up, they wouldn't use any soap,
right,
because they get conditioned in childhood, according to Freud, my uncle.
Pick yourself out of this photo and also tell the people where Mr. Freud is.
Well, Sigmund Freud is on the right.
Right there.
And he is traveling.
That's you, isn't it?
That's me there.
And who's this guy right there?
I'm 10 years old. That's his brother.
That's his brother.
That's his brother.
You were 10 years old.
I was 10 years old. It was 1901.
Did it
love
work?
soap.
Did it work?
Only accustomed to it. The fascinating thing to me was that after the first year, 22 million children were loving soap, and the sale of soap just went up.
Well, if you say so.
This is a very, very important topic, and what he frames here is the power of public mind control, mass mind control. Now, this was written in the 20s, and they had their own, the mass media. It's even more prominent now. The level of control and infiltration the mass media has into the lives of really almost everyone on earth. But to hear him talk about that, 100 years ago is almost eerie, talking about those who control, those who pull the wires, which it is they who pull the wires which control the public mind.